Hi, I'm Paul Casanova, and I'm a registered Scrum trainer and Working Genius facilitator with Integrity Works. This case study is about a private equity project that was completely stuck. I got things moving by using Scrum to rebuild trust and collaboration. By listening first, learning the business with the team, and creating safety through open dialogue, I was able to set the foundation for change. And once that foundation was in place, we got traction. The team accelerated, rework reduced, and people got excited. So how do we get there? Well, let's dig in and talk about where it all began. It started with a managed fund administration company, or MFA. Their specialty was building custom extensions to their platform using a waterfall approach. They had siloed specialist teams. Commercial won the work, and then transitions coordinated development, and finally operations supported customers after launch. In 2019, they decided to build a private equity facility. This was new for them and a strategic differentiator that customers had been asking for. It was a way for them to expand their services and to gain a competitive advantage. A year later, the business was bought by a large financial services company with its own delivery framework. Employee and system integration began. A pilot project linked the MFA platform to the parent company's main product, and it was successful. But the private equity project made no progress. Company leadership declared the MFA waterfall approach unfit, mandating the delivery framework instead. In late 2021, MFA teams were trained in the framework and long discovery workshops were held to get things moving. By 2022, though, delivery still hadn't started. The delivery framework was flatly rejected by MFA leaders, and the project entered a cultural deadlock. The previous delivery coach had carried a heavy load supporting all of the MFA teams, trying to help them integrate into the parent company while also working to get the private equity project off the ground. I stepped in as delivery coach with a clear mandate for private equity: rebuild trust, align stakeholders, and create the conditions needed for delivery. So that was the situation that I walked into. But the real question was, why weren't things moving? To me, the delivery framework seemed agile in theory but lean in practice. It was serving the parent company well with their mature products in a stable, harmonious environment, but it focused on process and efficiency over intent, feedback, and incremental delivery. MFA saw the framework as rigid and prescriptive. They felt their concerns had been ignored, and they couldn't see any benefit in using it. The framework promoted data-driven forecasting with cycle times, but MFA leaders demanded fixed dates and detailed plans. Without those, they refused to commit capacity. With no agreed starting point and no data, to them, the delivery forecast looked like a wild guess, and they didn't trust it. The challenges I saw reminded me of three things. 1, that we should seek first to understand. 2, that we should also start with why. That is, people need to know the purpose so they can commit. And 3, if processes become too lean, they can choke innovation rather than supporting it. The delivery framework assumed a complicated environment, like a game of chess, where you can plan many steps ahead based on the possible moves of your opponent. But the private equity project environment was complex. It was more like poker. You play your hand, then you see what happens, and then you decide your next move. That's where Scrum really shines. I leveraged this mindset in my coaching, adjusting my approach through observing how people were responding. To de-risk delivery and start shifting the culture, I focused on 3 foundations. 1, building credibility, shared understanding, and trust. 2, facilitating alignment and collaboration. And 3, overcoming resistance to Agile and Scrum. Let's look more closely at these 3 foundations and see how they made all the difference. First, let's look at building credibility, shared understanding, and trust. I started with observation, listening one-on-one with project members. I learned that while I didn't understand private equity from a business perspective, no one else really understood it either. This knowledge gap was a core impediment. So I consumed everything I could find about private equity, short courses, tutorials, articles, and more, and I shared that back with the team. Learning with the team showed them that I was sincere and committed. We reviewed project materials together, creating shared understanding and space for questions. Have you ever regretted not speaking up or asking a question wishing you'd raised it sooner? Well, being the new coach let me play the part of the wise fool, asking the questions others were too embarrassed to ask. This encouraged and demonstrated the Scrum values of openness, courage, and respect. That effort to understand their world built trust and became the foundation for buy-in and healthy conflict. Next, let's talk about the second foundation, facilitating alignment and collaboration. As trust and rapport grew, I moved from observing to guiding. I facilitated discussions, mentored and asked pointed questions that helped steer team conversations. I pushed back when leaders asked me to coach areas outside private equity, demonstrating focus and commitment. Focusing solely on private equity minimised context switching for me and let me build deeper understanding. I pitched for a dedicated, cross-functional Scrum team to deliver the project. With the new team, we began surfacing objections, removing impediments, and building psychological safety and trust. This transition away from silos and handoffs was a turning point for the project. In our first workshop, we clarified business needs and refined personas. We mapped our current state, split the first release in two, and cut unessential scope. And now let's have a look at the last foundation, overcoming resistance to Scrum and Agile. The second discovery workshop needed to be different. My theory was simple. If everyone involved was included and the activities built up understanding step by step, then the group could decide where to start together, and they could see the heart of Scrum in action. I started by asking subject matter experts when and how often features might be used. Then as a group, we discussed which personas would interact with each feature, and just as importantly, which of them would not. Silent brainstorming captured thoughts about how we might demonstrate progress to stakeholders. This gave the quieter voices confidence, and as a group again, we talked about what sprint reviews might look like and who might attend. We used relative estimation to size features, sharing different opinions and aligning understanding. Attendees considered the impact of delaying each feature. Discussions grew richer, and the group became more engaged and confident. The team voted for the feature they believed should be our first product goal, giving the commitment needed to move forward with the next workshop. In the third workshop, user story mapping helped us decompose the first feature into epics, and then epics into user stories. We used product backlog building techniques to clarify the who, what, and why of each item. Large-scale estimation from the registered product owner training enabled us to estimate the whole backlog. Then we nominated 3 velocity values for optimistic, expected, and pessimistic forecasts. These gave us initial delivery timeline projections in our release burn-up chart. Using both the release burn-up chart and cycle time forecasting increased leadership confidence in our projected delivery dates. Together, they showed that Agile forecasting methods could provide the clarity and confidence the project had been missing. Sprint-based relative estimation was easier for MFA leaders to grasp, and cycle time forecasting added reassurance for them. Interestingly, both methods aligned closely until the final sprints, with relative estimation proving more realistic as the team accelerated. There were some challenges along the way and adaptations that I had to make. Not everyone welcomed Scrum. Some initially refused Scrum training due to their negative experiences with the delivery framework. By immersing participants in Scrum thinking and complementary practices during the workshops, resistance faded, people bonded, and belief in success grew. Velocity accelerated in the first 2 sprints, but Sprint 3 fell sharply to just 3 points. The retrospective revealed 2 causes. First, Sprint 3 had been overloaded, ignoring the Scrum pattern that had been taught. Teams that finish early accelerate faster. When shown the evidence, the team committed to only pulling as much work into each sprint as they had typically completed in recent sprints. Second, test cases were being written after work had begun, so there was inconsistent understanding of what good looked like for the functionality that was to be built. This caused lots of rework and it piled up. We used example mapping from behaviour-driven development to shift left, exploring business rules, acceptance criteria, and concrete examples when we were getting work ready for the sprint. This increased engagement during backlog refinement, surfacing gaps in knowledge early. We saw an immediate effect. Collaboration and morale improved, rework dropped, and velocity increased. As the team accelerated, the Scrum Master and Product Owner grew in their capability. Confidence in Scrum took hold, and I went back to a more responsive coaching stance. Let's step through the results and impact of using Scrum to get the private equity project moving. After 3 years of no progress, the first feature was delivered in just 6 months. Velocity accelerated dramatically, climbing from 12 to 54 story points per sprint. Rework dropped significantly, as improved refinement practices gave us clearer acceptance criteria and shared understanding. A global leader in managed fund administration eventually integrated the private equity solution into their own platform. There were valuable lessons learned and key takeaways from this case study. First, context is everything. We all reach for tools or frameworks to fix problems. Sometimes they work. Other times we need to invent something new. Even then, our solution might only work once. The key is to continually observe team dynamics and design solutions that fit. Second, understanding over process. Earning trust and credibility through shared understanding matters more than implementing process changes. Forcing Scrum without understanding the team's concerns first would have failed. Listening first created the space for Scrum to succeed. Third, resistance comes from fear. Resistance in this case originated in negative past experiences. Meeting concerns with empathy, patience, and small steps softened that unwillingness to try something different. And finally, hands-on experience reassures. Some feared Scrum training would cause history to repeat, but seeing Scrum in action during daily work demonstrated real value and provided reassurance to detractors. In the end, the success of the private equity project wasn't due to enforcing a framework. It was due to focusing on the heart of Scrum and demonstrating value. Scrum can be a platform for transcendence. It can help bring people together around purpose. It can help build shared understanding, make work more joyful, strengthen emotional intelligence, and help deliver meaningful outcomes. And the impact of making things better will be long-lasting, both for the people who experience Scrum firsthand and for those that they serve. If your teams feel stuck, more process might not be what they need. The heart of Scrum can help you deliver real value through lasting change. I hope you found this case study to be helpful. If you'd like to go deeper, you can read the full case study on the Scrum at Scale website. And if you'd like to explore how these ideas could help you with your own teams, visit the Integrity Works website or get in touch with me directly. Thanks for watching.